So this is the Risk Working Group meeting on April 20th. We will meet again on April 27th just to get back on cycle. And I guess I'll just add risk meeting dates, because as I went through rescheduling the risk meetings and their cycle with the Easter Monday, we run up against the Monday of Memorial Day weekend in the U.S. and also the Monday, July 6th of July 4th weekend in the U.S. So, and I believe we run up against whatever Monday precedes whatever form the Open Source Summit North America um, takes. So there's a number of exceptions through the summer for the time and sort of sequence that we've chosen, and I thought it might be a good idea to to consider maybe changing our cadence and trying to avoid holidays that way. That might be the easiest thing to do. I will throw it open for
Yeah, I'm thinking, are there any other working groups right now that meet on a bi-weekly basis? Because you know how like com
evolution. Evolution does, but they alternate with common.
um, of value alternates with common
Oh, that's right.
Thursdays, and so does evolution meet on a?
Let's see. Right now we have. Let's see. We are risk. It looks like evolution. So we could alternate with evolution on Wednesdays at 9 o'clock. I don't know. Does that work for folks? Does that work for folks?
I like that just because it's you know it's a
Okay. Sorry.
I just
Is that all right with you, Kate?
What?
Wednesdays at 9 a.m. alternating with evolution.
Uh,
So it would be we'd meet next week Wednesday at 9 a.m.
checking. Checking.
Or we could meet the 2 weeks from then. We could start at 2 weeks from then and then just leave the Monday meeting that we have.
I can do the 29th right now, except I've got usually there's something else that's trying to get things lined up for the
Okay.
Wednesday spot. That's my problem. But
So let's keep the ninth, or keep, I'm sorry, keep, wait a minute. Let's keep the 27th and then not do the 29th, but schedule it from the 13th of May forward, alternating, or I'll take other suggestions. But since Kate can't make it the 20, you can make it the 29th, or you can't.
I can right now. I'm just worried that that Wednesday is it. I've got right now a that time is looking like it's going to work for an Elisa meeting.
Okay.
And right now it's open, but I'm kind of worried my Lisa TSC is going to be maybe ending up there.
Okay.
So that's kind of, on the other hand,
Would that be permanent though?
that's what I should know that. Yeah, it might be. That's what I'm worrying about, because basically we've got people from Israel and
Yeah.
they move to a time in the week when they can meet.
Right.
And so I could probably do the 8 a.m., but realistically, Monday is a better day for me, or Tuesday for that matter.
Um,
9 o'clock.
I don't think there's nothing Tuesday at 9 o'clock at all. And it's not like
Yeah,
my Tuesdays are already pretty meeting heavy, so why not go for it?
yeah yeah that would work. I think it's critical that Kate be here.
Yeah, I do too. I do too.
Sorry to be a problem, guys, but yeah,
No,
I
it's
just have
not
a
a
rather
problem.
crazy morning usually.
No, it's the exception on Monday just made me kind of look out through the rest of the exceptions, and then I got to the point where we're running into holidays all over the place where we are right now.
Yeah, we do.
Uh,
So
so
like I say, if we move this to Tuesday, that works for me. And I'm actually quite fine with moving it to more frequent cadence for a while so we catch up and get a little bit more momentum going.
Yeah, and Tuesdays at 9 a.m. I believe are universally open. Do you want to just do weekly on Tuesdays at 9 a.m.?
That would work for me.
Okay. Let me go back to, I go weeks, then I lose track of things.
Let's start the 28th on Tuesday.
Yeah, let's not meet tomorrow. I think that would be a little too fast. Matt, are you able to just move the risk working group to Tuesdays at 9 a.m.?
Actually, the only one thing is, do we know if we're going to be doing that thing for Capital One at all or not virtually? That is on the 28th.
I've heard nothing.
Heard the other, have you?
No, I haven't. I'll reach out to John Mark and see where his head's at these days.
Okay. I mean, we can always, if that does happen,
Yeah,
give that the preference for that week.
yeah, or just keep it on the 27th next week, and then after that, move it forward.
But yes, Tuesday, Monday, or Tuesday at this time works.
Okay.
Okay, so let's start. Well, Monday it'll be the 27th, and then beginning the week of May 4th, it'll be
Right.
Tuesdays at 9 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, are you able to make that change, or do you have to get Kevin to do that?
I actually think I can do it.
All
So,
right.
But let's, so.
Move on to the agenda.
No, I'm looking, so you want risk on the 27th.
Yeah, keep it where it is, just in case the other thing comes up.
Going forward?
Then weekly cadence on starting the 5th of May.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I think I can make that. I think I can make that change.
Okay. I figured you had the authority to change.
It's less setting up that particular cadence in Google Calendar, which is not the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, basically, you would, the way I do it is I'd go to the May 11th one and then change that and say change it to Tuesday the 5th and say every Tuesday, everything following instead of all meetings, because then it'll change everything behind it.
Yeah.
But I've done this a lot.
Okay, right on.
I've screwed it up a lot, so I've learned all the mistakes to make. Okay, so we're gonna do Monday, April 27th, then every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Beginning on May 5th. Cinco de Mayo. What better day to start a new tradition? And then I don't know if there's any updates we want to share with the working groups about the CHAOSS Community Manager, Matt, at this time. I'll drop out of sharing to keep the...
Hold on, what was the question? I'm sorry. That was more
if we want to provide any working group, risk working group updates regarding the community manager that we are recruiting to work with CHAOSS.
No, I mean, other than the fact that, we're just kind of getting the word out there at this point. So I don't know, I guess I'm open to if people have questions or comments. It's been kind of sent out to see, what's going on. So I don't have a ton of updates right now.
Okay, so it's we're advertising on Indeed.com, and is the position posted somewhere other than Indeed.com or just on Indeed.com?
Just there, because I think if you post it somewhere else, Indeed charges you. Like they want exclusive rights to the job. It's weird.
Oh, okay. But you could, I mean, is there a link that it's okay for people to post elsewhere?
Oh, yeah. So Georg had tweeted it out as well on the CHAOSS project.
Okay.
Do you want me to just the Indeed link?
Yeah, if you have the link handy, I just maybe you can put it in the minutes.
Yep. Let's see.
There you go. All right. So if anybody has a list of open source folks or Twitter account they want to promote,
Or they have an interest in, I don't know, talking through this job or candidates, let me know.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the more we promote it amongst the people we know, the better candidate pool we'll get, for sure. And then I don't know if that was Slack or something else, but and then so then the discussion of the 2020 goals, and in the past we've discussed testing safety critical systems, illicit project, Yocto, medical devices, and auto grade Linux. And we reviewed the project Yocto project dashboard
Mm-hmm.
last week, and I confess I haven't memorized it, so let me just share that briefly. And so this just gives a general set of contributions. And what does Yocto do, Kate?
Yocto creates an embedded distros.
What distros?
Embedded.
Oh, embedded distros.
Yeah, it's generally used for the embedded distro space.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do all of the players in the embedded distro space, out of my own morbid curiosity, leverage Yocto, or?
I'd say that they tend to be a more common story there.
Okay. So there
Uh,
would be like the, I don't know, like a library distributor for similar to trying to think of one, and I'm like what libraries.io used to do,
mm-hmm.
Python, pip, that kind of
Okay.
thing. Package distributors, essentially.
Uh, I'd say it's more like Debian, except in the
Debian.
embed space.
Okay.
Except what it does is it lets people create their own distros. So like Debian, like, there's Ubuntu and a whole bunch of other things that have been created from Debian. It's sort of a fundamental, like, it's more of a fundamental technology of putting pieces together that people can build things from.
Okay. Okay. It looks like I created a space in the link for no reason. Um, the next thing on our agenda is just kind of goal setting for 2020, and I'm going to leave that list there
Right.
and make 2020
You put no
goals.
thought into that. I'm sorry. This one.
Okay.
Something weird happened there. It sounded like a maintenance guy who was kind of confused about what pipe to fix, but I'm not sure. Um, so testing safety critical systems, I think it would be great if we could get a little bit concrete about what we want to do. And only because testing and safety critical systems and medical devices and auto grade Linux present not only metric definition challenges, but also in many cases, language specific technical questions that need to be looked into more deeply. And, and so with that in mind, uh, perhaps, I don't know, maybe I think it might be best to go through them one by one. Kate, what do you think? Kate maybe have been interrupted by the workers.
Sorry. Yeah. I was busy talking away there. Sorry about that.
No, no.
Yeah, I think going through it one by one makes sense.
So I mean, I think developing metrics for testing is a goal. based on our previous discussions. And I think the things I recall as being important and likely also in our spreadsheet are test coverage, testing, code quality. I'm looking for, actually, I don't see test coverage. Oh yeah, test coverage is released, actually. So I think with test coverage, we have a released metric, but I think the challenge is to address our language specific implementations of tools, and some of these tools are proprietary, if I recall correctly.
Mm.
Do you recall that at all, Kate? Or am I thinking of something else?
Well, I think there's tools like Misra and Coverity and things like that that are proprietary. So that is definitely an issue that I don't know if we can do too much there. But there's things like Stress-NG that are open for like the Linux kernel side of things. And there are things built into the GNU compiler that we could probably look at. NG, next generation.
Okay.
And so, you know, there are tools out there, and there's all the fuzzing, static analysis associated with the LLVM ecosystem.
Fuzzing,
Dynamic boundary testing, things like that.
Did you say fuzzing?
Yeah, fuzzing.
And it's dynamic what testing?
It's dynamic. It's basically looking at the conditions around use of variables when they're being run. It's a common term in the security space. But there's also static, well, it's basically static and dynamic analysis based. And so fuzzing is an example of dynamic analysis. Okay.
And I assume that GNU's compiler and Stress-NG would be examples of static analysis.
Actually, Stress-NG is a dynamic, and GNU compiler is probably static. It's sort of bounds checking as well as, you know, when you're getting warnings. But I think there's other static analysis techniques out there that are sort of executed through compilers. And so I just put static analysis as a general camp. So as a classification, like CPP check, things like that.
All right, so these are key classifications. To your knowledge, I mean, do they like, I mean, a lot of them, like the tools like Misra or Coverity, they have a finite set of languages that they cover?
Yeah, they basically, well, Misra is a standard, and it's applied against C and so forth. And they've got a variety of instances. I suspect there's more emerging. But things like static and dynamics analysis are sort of, you know, language independent techniques, and there's languages that are instances of inside each of them. That there's, you know, there's tools. Okay. I think probably the Misra and the Coverity are both static checks, okay? So maybe just putting static analysis at the top level, and then dynamic analysis, and then sorting things underneath there.
I see.
It's kind of what would make some sense.
From the
ones before.
Yep. Yeah, I'll move those around.
Okay.
From your experience with the safety critical systems,
Hmm.
geez, I can't seem to do this right. Um, and um, and auto grade Linux medical devices is where Jessica, I think, probably helps us a lot if we can get her back a little bit.
Yeah.
Is there are there tools that are commonly in use in those projects already, or is that a critical gap?
Um, I think they're starting to look at health. I think they're behind where we are right now as an industry. Um, they're just looking for basic transparency at this stage, right? In the medical side, and they lack that. Same thing, I think, with autograde, but that's my opinion. That is not anything I have substantive data and surveys to back.
When you say transparency, did you essentially mean that some of the code is black boxed in a proprietary way?
Yep.
Yeah.
Um, One option is we've just finished deciding in ELISA that we're going to move our May workshop to be virtual.
Mm-hmm.
And the call for topics is open right now.
Oh.
And to present there, and what might make some sense is to basically just have a session on Q&A session about, okay, what are risk metrics that people care about? And then see sort of what sort of reaction we get from that community directly, as opposed to me proxying for them. But that way, maybe sort of talk about the risk metrics that have been established right now, and then ask people what they want to see in a workshop session, sort of an hour long one virtually in May. Might be an interesting way of starting to tease some of this out. Possibly see if we can do some of the similar outreach.
Yeah.
Do you want me to propose it with you there as primary?
Yeah. Yeah. That would be
Okay.
great. But did I don't know if
No, it doesn't have a conference or anything else. Elisa is also an overloaded term for us. But
I know, right?
yeah, I just pasted out. We discussed this on
Okay.
Friday. It was clear we couldn't do this in Frankfurt, so we're going to do virtual.
Yeah.
Well, I can send a draft of illustrating it with the topics of metrics, and I'll put you on CC, and then you may or may not want to subscribe to the mail list for the discussions. We're trying to do this sort of like we do with the kernel community, in the
Okay.
sense that before we get to maintainer summit, things get talked about on the mail list.
Did you paste the Alyssa conference link somewhere?
Well, it doesn't have a conference thing yet. It's just a mail list discussion. So.
Okay, so is the call for presentations on the mail list discussion?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, let's see if I can, just a second, let me go. I just pasted it this morning. You're getting it hot off the press, guys. Hot off the press. But,
And do Coverity or Misra fit into the static or dynamic space clearly, or do they span?
yeah, they're both in statics.
Okay.
They're both static analysis techniques. And they tend to be part of quality management systems, which is one of the things in the safety standards is calling for, or several of the standards call for is, okay, what is the quality management that's in place for for your system? So they want to know some sort of QM is in place. And Misra and Coverity are sort of acknowledged, Misra scans and Coverity scans are sort of acknowledged. Well, Coverity implements Misra, okay? So Misra scans are acknowledged as a way of demonstrating you have coding guidelines in place and you have the right level of, and you've got something that you can point to that proves that's evidence.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily a test coverage tool.
Well, it's testing that you've followed your coding guidelines. And the GNU compiler would be CPP check, I believe, is another example of static. There.
If I spelled that right.
Yeah, I think it's a lowercase, but whatever.
Okay. And the C is, or all of it?
I think capital C, lowercase pp, C. Yeah.
Okay. Work hard not to look stupid by putting the wrong
Yeah, I hear you.
capitalizations on things. And that would both, the ELISA conference would address concerns
Workshop.
of workshop, ELISA, okay, workshop. It would address the concerns of both auto-grade Linux and safety critical.
Yeah, we tend to have the auto-grade Linux people there too.
Okay.
And there's medical, there's a medical working group, medical devices working group there too. And then there's just, yeah, medical and automotive would be the two that would be, you'd have domain experts there.
And I assume that Zephyr has a general role as an embedded operating system, or no?
Well, actually, at least that's for Linux.
So
Zephyr cares about safety, but it wouldn't be under ELISA.
okay.
Okay. And we're talking about potentially having a Zephyr developer summit in the fall.
It's easier to coordinate these things when they have to be virtual, basically.
Yes. So we'll see what sort of ideas we can come up with here with
Okay.
Zephyr. But certainly what can we measure, what we do? I can probably get a separate discussion going in the Zephyr safety community, in the Zephyr. I can see if we can, have you guys come and chat on the Zephyr safety committee one time and see if we can get, what ideas and do some brainstorming there about what metrics make sense to people that they want to start looking for.
Yeah. I think with risk that does make a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. If they think, what evidence do they want people want to be collecting as they go along to help prove out the case? And getting the safety, experts sort of weighing in on that might be some interesting insights. Hard to say. Mm-hmm. And I'd say also in the dynamic analysis sort of camp is like the regression testing and all the testing that happens against the kernel. But any type of regression testing might be useful.
So that maybe encouraging, maybe so this might inspire some metrics that evaluate extensiveness or history of regression testing, or so I have two questions. One is, we focused in the past a lot on, I guess last year we developed a number of metrics around licensing. And before we leave, so I just mentioned that, set it aside, and then ask if there's something specific about the Yocto projects. Apparently I did not do the Yocto projects dashboard correctly. Is there something specific that we see here that is not defined as a metric that we want to sort of make a metric?
Well, I think maybe we should just reach out to the Octo folks, set up a call with Richard and with Nico. And I think Nico's in charge of the dashboard right now, and start to have a discussion with him as to what they're looking for.
Am, am I,
Like I know, like the problems Richard's having and trying to keep an eye on is, you know, participation aspects of
mm,
it, um, and
so I'm not,
engagement by members, I guess, would be the other side of it.
yeah. I think I think the question is that when I look at the Octo dashboard, I see kinds of the basic activity metrics that I see on the Bitergia and Augur's dashboards, and I, 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 I guess exploring if there are metrics with the two Octo people that you mentioned that could be added to these dashboards to provide greater utility.
Yeah,
Um,
like I say, you know, I think we can certainly see if we can get some time with Nico and with Richard and sort of see what makes sense. Are there things that they see as gaps that they don't, that, you know, would be signaling risk?
when you say Nico, I automatically spell it like Nico Case. Is that wrong?
NICO,
And I see.
short for Nicholas,
Okay.
and it's Nicholas Duchesne. He works for Lenaro, so
Okay. So
you know
Nico,
that way.
who's the other person?
Richard Purdy, who's the architect for Yocto.
Curdy.
Purdie.
P-U-R-K.
Yeah,
Always good to ask.
sure.
Uh, so, Kate, do you feel like you can take, since you know them?
Yeah, I can start to see if I can start a discussion off with the with this and um, see if we can get some sort of time arranged to discuss.
Call this Yocto metrics distribution of, it's distribution of embedded Linux, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just make that at the same level as the other 2020 goals. And then I guess I'll ask, then I'll come back to my earlier question about licensing. We have released a number of licensing metrics, permitters, best practice badge, test coverage, licenses, declared OSI approved licenses, and license coverage. I think we actually have some tooling around those that's pretty useful. Are there other are there other metrics on this list, perhaps under licensing or perhaps under business risk or security, that we think are important to address in 2020? I'm kind of really interested in your perspective, Kate, because you're the closest to this world.
I was wondering, do you think there's anything, Kate, with open chain?
Well, I think supply chain risk is worth pursuing.
Okay.
Okay. It's going to be topical. It's also going to be a question of coherency of supply chain and things like that. David Wheeler is now working at the LF, and his, you know, his title is literally Director of Supply Chain Security. So we can try to see if we can pull him into some of this.
Okay.
And it sort of gets into some of those issues.
Does any of that connect with the Census 2 work?
Yep, exactly. It does.
By the way, as part of our Augur testing, we continue to maintain an active Census 2 instance.
Okay.
So that data is fairly up to date. And if there are different projects that get added or projects that get removed from the census, there are things that we can do to help David. I recall from the census work that we did with you and Jessica last year, or Jessica and her another team last year, that one of the issues is that most repository tools, including ours and Grimoire Labs, don't really address the of libraries, and the fact
Yeah.
that there are multiple libraries embedded in a repository, and uh, that I think might be a question. It sounds like from other conversations
Mhm.
might be a question for, because like when we got the list, um, there were a number of repetitive repositories, and the reason for that was because there were a number of libraries in the same repository. And does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does make sense. It's a question of, do you have, it's part of the transparency in some ways in my mind of, do you know which one of you are actually using? And, do we have coherency amongst the versions that are being used, especially in things like the container space?
Mhm.
What I'll do is, we're meeting on the 27th, right?
Yes.
I'm going to ask, I'm just going to go in right now and invite David to come to this talk, because I think he probably should be here as well. And then if that works, we'll see if we can, if he start, let's see how the interaction goes and then try to pull him in full time after that.
Is he assigned to a project, Kate, or?
He's leading CII now.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, he's assigned to that in the sense that he's looking at it, but he's basically Jessica's space plus in this area.
Yeah. Okay.
And so let me just go and edit and I'll just start an email thread on. I think it would be good if you could give an overview to him of what's actually being maintained, so he has an awareness of it, because I suspect he doesn't.
Yeah.
And then let's start probing with him about what metrics is he looking to see.
Yeah, and it becomes fair. Yeah, it becomes really clear when you look at the list of repositories in Census 2 that there are multiple libraries that are in the census shared repositories, and so you have several instances of a half dozen repositories that exist more than once because more than one library is in them.
Okay.
And Jessica and I discussed that it would be great to do some analysis by library, and I think that just requires a conversation about what the subparts of a repo are,
Yeah.
and how to count that and sort of indicate the hierarchy that really exists in these cases, because it in the work that Matt and I and our teams have done with libraries.io and libraries that go to package managers, it became very clear very quickly that this makes it hard to look at a library at the repository level. And so it's a known problem. And if the supply chain risk questions that David is asking makes this known problem, sort of warrants solving it now, then it'd be good to know that. And if it doesn't warrant solving it now, then we won't. But if it's something that's a priority for understanding supply chain security, then it sounds like it might be worth looking into solving and also trying to define metrics that are below the repository level.
Yep.
Do we think we're in a satisfactory space with the metrics that we have for, and I've been oversharing, not showing faces, but so I'll reshare this link and then I'll turn off the share so faces are visible again.
This works fine. Okay. I've got faces across the top myself, but whatever.
Oh, you do? You do?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So, but the recording won't, as I understand.
Show it. Correct.
Oh,
So I shared the link to the list of things that we've defined, and in terms of licensing, I think we moved license count and we did some things with OSI approved licenses. I think the one question was if there was any work, like we've got we have metrics that identify licenses and tools that identify licenses that are OSI approved and not. And I guess my question is are there additional sort of gray spaces or issues with how licensing and sort of these fake open source licenses exist, that we want to drill in on one or two of those under licensing this year? Like I confess
Yeah.
I'm being fully aware of the space.
A question: how important is it for the SPDX license list to kind of be made more transparent? Is that
So like right now we've got is OSI, and we're just basically is on the SPDX list or not.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. Actually, that would be really helpful probably for the SPDX community to know
Okay.
stats in terms of, you know.
API, how does that data? I know Jelaine kind of curates it. But how,
Actually, yeah, Jelaine, Steve Winslow, and Paul, I think, are sort of on there, but I think Steve and Jelaine do most of the work these days.
do you know if that's available like via an API?
Yeah, it is. It is. The whole license list is available via an API.
Okay.
And so you can, you know.
I believe that's the API that Matt Snell uses to pull licenses that are valid.
That's correct.
Yep. So knowing, like, I think we've got is OSI or not effectively on there. Is this an OSI approved license? And just maybe basically having another line item saying, is this on the SPD, you know, is this an SPDX approved, you know, license?
Do we want to just define a metric that indicates SPDX approved licenses, or is that the same thing as OSI approved licenses?
Oh, SPDX is a superset.
Okay.
Okay, because it also has the FSF and it also has things that are commonly found that are not on the OSI list.
So should we create a metric called SPDX approved licenses?
Yes, I
Okay.
think so.
Okay. That was emphatic, Matt. Well done.
Yeah, no, I appreciate somebody being emphatic about it.
It's to get lost in this.
Yeah.
Its own metric is a nice signal for the work that's coming out of.
Well, the fact that we've got the SPDX document too, I'm very happy about. So one of the questions for you guys I had is I am pulling together a list of all the tooling that works with SPDX documents. And should I be adding Augur onto there? Since you're generating it for the risk metrics and so forth.
Does it include generation and like
Generation
is it
and
just
consumption.
okay.
It's consumption and generation and translation are the categories.
Yep.
So I can share a link to
Consumption, generation, and what was the other one?
Relation?
transformation.
Is it
We produced a JSON document through Augur, and those are automatically generated, but I believe they're pretty sound.
Yeah, well, so SPDX actually has a formal JSON format now.
Yeah, and we follow that.
Oh, sweet. Okay, awesome. Well,
So,
then yes, you should be able to do that actually quite nicely.
and so then you include Augur.
Yep, that sounds like it. It's also if you were consuming it, we could include it, which, you know, consuming the documents.
I know Gary had worked on the SPDX validation tool. What
Uh-huh.
is that? Is that, we might want to test what we put out in Augur against that tool.
He would
You know
work
what
on that actually right now.
What
Say
tool? What tool did he develop?
Document validation tool.
Oh, okay. So it would validate the JSON that we generate.
In theory, yeah.
Okay.
It's
Uh,
just to make sure that it's consumable on the other end.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
I think he'd be really thrilled to know that there was an example up there to help him really shake this down, because we're in the stages of like I say, we're in the 2.2 review window,
Mhm.
and then we'll lock 2.2 down. Like I say, we're in the last 2 weeks, so to speak. So
Okay.
if you've got issues with 2.2, now's the time to squeak, and that has the translations in there.
I can reach out to Gary and just see where he's at with that, with the validator as well.
Okay.
Is that validator a downloadable tool?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could you? I don't know if Kate has it handy, but if it could be
And
pasted.
SPDX tools.
Look.
Just a second. Let me find the master thing of tools and paste that link in, and then you can go from there to his tool. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, I would just.
Kate is one thing at a time, or she gets confused and drops
Is it
everything.
that link? Is it that link that I just shared? spdx.org/tools.
That's probably it, actually, Matt. Yes. And then there's also, but the one I'm looking for is a different one, which is SPDX ecosystem, Google Doc.
Tools. Download the tool. Download the tool sounds very. So is the tool effectively the JSON validator, or is that something separate?
It's a set of tools for it's a SPDX Java libraries and tools, and in there is a validator as a function as part of translating. It has to be valid, so it's an option in that tool.
Oh, I see. There's a number of community tools that do.
We just had to make sure when we were doing DoSOX that we were actually.
Yep, you were. That's right. Yep, it's there for a reason, for that literal reason. So what I've just done here is, if you don't mind, I'll quickly go to screen share mode since I've got it up.
Yeah, I think you can. I'm not sharing right now, so I think you can just click it, or do you need?
So from the SPDX side, one of the things we've got here is a list of all the tools, and I was putting in from the open source tools. I had a whole. So there's a taxonomy here, and I sort of had a placeholder to see about whether or not it made sense to add Augur, but it sounds like it does.
Yeah.
Go back up to the taxonomy. It's slower when I'm sharing, obviously.
And I believe we have a license scanning only Augur tool called Augur-SPDX, Matt Snell?
Yeah, this is for documents though, rather than the license list specifically.
Okay.
Okay. And here's the taxonomy we're working towards is like, do you author during the build? No, but do you author after creation, manual or audit tool? So the audit tool will be an aspect for you guys from the DoSOX. And then consume, a view, a diff, and a analyze, be able to import documentation into, and then transform, translate, merge, and tool integration. So using the APIs and so forth. Support use in other tools by APIs. And so, for instance, here's Fassologies, right? But I was thinking Augur might make sense. And I was thinking we had, since there was an SPX generated SBOM as part of the risk metrics, we could do it. So if I put the template in here for you, Augur, are you comfortable filling it out, Sean?
What is, let me go back to your screen share. So.
Tag Matt Snell too.
Add Matt Snell too, okay.
Yeah, I'd be willing to fill that out.
So
okay, great, Matt.
Support, functionality, location, all those 4 boxes that are under Fassology.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, add Matt and I to that, and we can schedule probably half an hour to work through
Okay.
what all we have. It doesn't sound like we'll be supporting SPDX 2.2 right away, but
I think the 2.1 is, like I say, 2.1 is fine. You just need to.
and I doubt 2.2 is 2.2. Don't expect includes a ton of changes, or does it?
No, it doesn't actually. So you pretty much have 2.2 with the fields you've got. Like
I
say,
have my email there for you.
which,
I have
thank
my
you.
email in the chat. Yeah.
I appreciate that. That's exactly what I was going to ask for in a second. Oh, come on.
I love it when keyboards fail to respond.
I know.
Here we go.
There we go. Mm-hmm. Okay, then I'll create the template then, and I'll stop sharing. But you say the idea here is to start to sort of show who's working on things and where.
And yeah,
So the ones that are.
I requested remote control, but that wasn't what I was trying to do.
Okay, so here, right, in SPX Javas, you've got your validator. So in addition to going back and forth, so Gary has more. They'll be showing up for the JSON side, from the different formats. But generate the verification. This has got the validation in it somewhere. I need to ask him about that. Sorry. We do have it. So, yeah. So it just gives you a bit of a feel for where things are in the ecosystem, but that's it.
Who's that document for, Kate?
Multiple purposes, actually. This is being created as part of the NTA work. So the healthcare folks and others who are doing proof of concepts, it's a set of resources for them to use and look at, depending on what they want to try to do.
Okay.
We're reworking the SPDX website. I want to make sure this is more visible there as well.
Yep.
So there's, and then we're doing gap analysis between SPDX and some of the other formats for exchanging software bill of materials information. And so this is another way of, there's ecosystem pages for those as well.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Are we starting to call are we calling the output then software bill of materials?
Yeah.
Some stage, okay. Good.
Yeah, this is, tooling is working with it. So if you want to create a software bill of materials, you've got multiple formats to work with, one of which happens to be SPDX, and there's a tooling ecosystem around it. And we probably have, SPDX probably has the richest one at this point.
Yeah, cool.
A lot of the stuff that's sitting with SWID is pretty stale from what I've seen, but it's also, and then there's the Cyclone DX work as well. Those are the three that people seem to be using one way or another.
Excellent. There's 60 seconds remaining in the meeting. Is there anything else that anyone wants to bring up, or should we bid ourselves adieu and see you on a week from today?
A week from
Okay.
today. Change the calendar.
I'll send the invite off to David Wheeler, see if we can get him.
We
Okay.
have our goal for the year. See you all a week from today.
Okay.
Later.
Ciao.
Bye.